Please welcome Dr. Sonya Christian.
Good morning. So you can notice that my title in this particular slide has been removed. It doesn't say Chancellor of the Kern Community College District because yesterday on May 1st, the Chancellor of the Kern Community College District is Tom Burke. And I start as the State Chancellor on June 1st. So I've got this entire month that I can just be Sonya. So before I get started with my remarks, I want to acknowledge our trustees who are here, 3 of them, and so happy. Christina Scrivener, please stand up. I saw Trustee Scrivener and President Hancock getting excited when they talked about the Sierra Sands person here. I want to also recognize Trustee Giovanni Jimenez, who's here with us, an incredible champion of early college in the Arvin Lamont community. And last but not least, Trustee Nan Gomez-Heitzberg. And I saved Nan for last because Nan is also the incoming, potentially, is the vice president for the California Community College Trustees Association and is on the board for the association, the National Association of Community College Trustees. So great leadership from Kern, setting the national agenda and setting the statewide agenda. And Kylie did recognize the individuals who made this happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think Christopher just walked in. I saw him walking in. So thank you. And I wanted to start with the governor's roadmap, and I see Ben Sheeta here. Ben, please stand up. I just believe everyone knows Ben Sheeta. In fact, he tells me no one calls him Ben. Everyone calls him Ben Sheeta because you just say Ben Sheeta, right? I mean, this is one of the most brilliant minds that I know who's got a heart for students, has got a heart for community colleges, and really believes in the transformative power of education. And this guy is the senior advisor to Governor Newsom on all things education. So when I was preparing for the state chancellor job, I sat down and read the compact that the governor entered into with the CSUs, the UCs, and with the community colleges. The document is called the Roadmap. And it is truly a commitment from the governor. It's an aggressive agenda. It's an ambitious agenda, which is an indication that the governor is looking at the CSUs, UCs, and the community colleges to work collaboratively. And I can tell you here that I commit to significant and serious collaboration with my counterparts at the CSU and the UC system. In fact, Chancellor Jolene Kester was here in Bakersfield when we held our previous summit on economic mobility with a focus on climate. And she had a crazy schedule, but Chancellor Kester really drove all the way from San Diego, came in, did a presentation, and then headed back to another meeting. So I just think I'm so fortunate to be able to work with her in the new role. And I shared a stage with President Michael Drake talking about intersegmental baccalaureate attainment. So I look forward to working with these 2 stellar individuals. I wanted to start by signaling everyone, including our governor's senior advisor, that the work from the community colleges have started in terms of student success with equity for a long time. And I went back to a milestone in my life when I became president at Bakersfield College. So I thought about talking about the last 8 years. And I thought I would start with this picture that was taken in 2016. And it's not going to stay up for too long for you to be able to name everyone. But you see the California Community College Academic Senate there. You see the gentleman in the middle. He was not the state chancellor at that time. He was the president of Long Beach City College, President Oakley, who became Chancellor Oakley. And Kylie mentioned that College Futures is in the house. Maureen, I would love to connect with you because at that time I worked closely with Sean Whalen in moving the guided pathways agenda. You see a variety of individuals here. You see the Chancellor's office here, John Hetz now at the Chancellor's office. And I want to recognize Vice Chancellor Sandra Sanchez for driving over. She said, this is a priority. I want to be there. So thank you, Sandra. Please stand up and be recognized. So I see Linda Collins there as well, Linda. This was amazing work. And it's, we've always focused on student access and then access with equity, that is opening our doors and making sure all students were able to come through. And then the pendulum started swinging to looking at completion. Are we completing, are students able to complete that certificate and find a job, or transfer and find a job? So that framework of guided pathways created a common language for us to utilize. Our students entering the path strong is that trajectory, because if you enter strong, the trajectory that you start towards that certificate and degree attainment is going to be much better, more efficient, and more effective. So entering the path, which comes to the dual enrollment conference that we're having today. So put together this timeline in a presentation that I did with College Futures to look at how philanthropy intersects with public funds. And this timeline shows the evolution of the work that happened here in California. So when you talk about dual enrollment, Linda can talk to it much better than I can. But for me as a new president at Bakersfield College in 2015, when the legislation, AB 288, came into existence, the whole idea of dual enrollment was, how do we get all students to have college right at their high school? Because before dual enrollment, how did we bring college to the high school? Through AP, right? You take an AP class, and then you have that high stakes examination that you have to take. And if you don't score at a certain level, you don't get credit for that particular class, and all that learning just goes away. So when you look at something that is high stakes, and you look at who are the students who actually make it through, you see immediately those who are privileged, the system of privilege kicks in. And those who are not, our first generation students, low income students whose parents had not had college, don't make that choice of taking those particular classes. So AB 288 really had equity in front and center in making sure that every high school student had the opportunity to take college classes, bringing college to the high school. Now, I've always believed that if you create choice, the privileged really make use of that choice. But if you have a default setting, then you are opening it up for all students because it is the default option. So you see, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but you see the initial 20 colleges that participated in the Guided Pathways demonstration project that was funded by philanthropy led by College Futures. Thank you, College Futures, again. And then we had the state coming in with $150 million to fund Guided Pathways. You then see, pieces of legislation that was signed strengthening the transfer work, the transfer reform legislation. And then you've got the Community College Baccalaureate, which we will work collaboratively with our CSU partners to make sure that every Californian has an opportunity to baccalaureate attainment. So I do want to also mention the student-centered funding formula, which is a representation of the vision for success. So this particular slide is important to my own thinking of the work that we as community college educators, we do. Guided pathways is the framework. And when you look at the outcomes, it's the vision for success that was adopted by the Board of Governors. And then you see Governor Newsom, and I'm sure Ben wrote the roadmap for the governor, in 2021 really is taking the vision for success, giving it some level of depth, and bringing in workforce in a big way. I was excited to see in the roadmap that certain sectors are called out specifically. For example, the healthcare sector. And we all know how important the healthcare sector is. So, how do we double down on creating those graduates to enter into the workforce for our healthcare industry? The other sector is climate action. And I'm personally committed to a healthy world that we live in, taking care of Mother Earth. And so the sustainability agenda and the call to climate action is something that I'm personally committed to. And it cuts across all industries. It cuts across the agriculture industry, defense and aerospace. Every time I say defense and aerospace, I look at Saracoso, and President Hancock is over here. Agriculture, thank you, presidents, for coming here. President Habib, President Databoy, thank you for being here. And incoming President Watkin, thank you very much. So it cuts across all sectors, and the compact really talks about the commitment from the UCs with the climate action. And I see community colleges working in a very, very collaborative way with the UCs and advancing the workforce and community education aspect to the climate agenda. Thank you, Marissa. Thank you very much. So, the student centered funding formula is a brilliant piece of resource allocation that shows a commitment not only to access with equity, which is enrollments, you fund enrollments, right? But also completion and success with equity, which is the success metric of the student centered funding formula. And the supplemental piece of it is the equity aspect. So those of you who have tangentially been involved with the student-centered funding formula, my ask is to get more intimately involved with it so every college and every person working at a college understands how success and equity, the work that you're doing, is connected to the dollars that helps us to be effective in the work that we do. So, the better part of the last decade has been committed to policy reform. You can see I've selected some of the pieces of legislation that have passed and organized it under the policy reform. This is extremely important work to be done because it provides sort of at the highest level our values represented through legislation of what we needed to be doing. So you've got the transfer reform, the placement reform, dual enrollment, and the baccalaureate, the community college baccalaureate. So taking on now as the incoming chancellor for this state, where my focus is going to be is on implementation at scale and with fidelity. So when I think implementation, I think of local implementation because the reality is the work happens at the college level. Students don't go to the state chancellor's office. Students enroll in courses at colleges. So that's what local implementation means. So if we need to demonstrate that the policies that we have instituted and legislated are working, we need to be able to demonstrate it through outcomes happening at the college. So in many ways, the state chancellor's office and the colleges have to be working in an integrated manner. We rely on each other to be able to tell our story effectively and to bring resources to the most vulnerable of our populations in higher education, and that is the California community colleges. So, thank you, Lisa. I see one of our Guided Pathways coordinators. Guided Pathways coordinators in the room, please stand up and be recognized. You are going to make this work happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. So we talked about the local implementation, but I'm also focused on systems reform. Because if we don't have the systems in place to be able to quickly and efficiently make sure the students are flowing through our system, then we will not be able to implement at scale. And that is why some of the tools that we've adopted, like dualenroll.com, are extremely critical. The program pathways mapper are extremely critical to be able to implement at scale. For today, the segment for us to focus on, or at least what I wanted to focus on, is ninth grade to baccalaureate completion, which I'm calling the critical 8 years. So PPIC, I think Olga Rodriguez is here from PPIC. Thank you very much. Olga, if you're in the room, you'll be hearing from her. Go ahead, Olga, please stand up and be recognized. Incredible research work. You know, our researchers keep us honest and keep us learning new things in reforming and making our systems better. So this particular data shows that out of 1,000 students who start in the ninth grade, if they are from high-income families, high and middle-income families, only 440 make it through baccalaureate attainment out of 1,000, 440, right? And if they are from low-income families, out of 1,000, about half of that 440, a little over 200 students make it to baccalaureate completion. I'm not saying that everyone must complete a baccalaureate. If you can, you find a job with that certificate, that's wonderful. What I am saying that if a student wants to complete a baccalaureate, then we are obligated to make them have an opportunity to complete that baccalaureate. So it is our responsibility to create the pathways for everyone to be able to get a baccalaureate if they choose. If not, we must have the pathways to go to the job, come back, get another certificate, a degree, go back to work, and that's the whole ecosystem of socioeconomic mobility. So when you disaggregate the data, again, from those 1,000 ninth graders, out of the 1,000, if you're looking at the highest level of achievement, 518 of our Asian students will earn a bachelor's degree. And out of the 1,000, only 172 of our African American students will earn a bachelor's degree. So we've got our work cut out for us. So now, why are we having the dual enrollment conference, right? So Sandra Hernandez, you know why we're doing this now, right? It is absolutely essential that the first 4 years of those 8 years is critical. Now, the language I have there is directly from the governor's roadmap. The governor's call that we must have students completing 12 college credits when they're in high school, not waiting for them to come find us, not build it and they will come to the college, but taking college to the student in the high school, not as a matter of choice, but as a default option, right? As a default option. So Kylie had mentioned this piece of research, and Emma Gallegos, thank you for being here. This is what EdSource put out, and when you look at who's in and who's out, focusing statewide, the idea is every student, when you're looking at the disaggregated data, the proportionality of those enrolling and being successful in dual enrollment classes needs to represent the largest student population. That is what they call the proportionality index that EdSource used. And I'm not going to go into this in detail, but it's just to signal California that we're looking at it with precision at the dual enrollment work. It's not a scattergun approach, but it's with precision and clarity and tenacity that we're approaching this work. Now, today, as we're gathered here in this wonderful hotel here in Bakersfield, there are 436,192 eighth graders. They're sitting in an eighth grade class. Imagine them, their faces. This is our future, right? And they're coming into the ninth grade in fall of 2023. Now, I start as state chancellor June 1st. That is too late. We can't wait for June 1st because by then we're going to lose the opportunity for these eighth graders when they start the ninth grade to have a college class as the default class in the schedule, right? That's the call to action today, the ninth grade strategy. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. The ninth grade strategy is we owe it to these 436,192. We can't wait for next year, 2024. It's too late for them. When they come into the ninth grade, they must have a college class waiting for them. It could be a student development class where they can plan out their 12 college credits, right, in the ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. Here is some data from Los Rios Community College District, and you can see the enrollments here broken up by age because we don't have the data by grade, but you do a mapping, right? If you are 17, 18, you're looking like the 11th and the 12th grade. If you're 15 years old, you're in the ninth grade. So when you look at this data, what you should bear in mind is, I think Craig Hayward called it the ramp phenomenon. You know, the percentage in the ninth grade for Los Rios is much less than the 12th grade. It ramps up. And we're asking to change that phenomenon so that in the ninth grade, every student needs to be enrolled in a college class because that takes care of dual enrollment with equity. So when you look at the statewide dual enrollment data as a percentage of high school students in each of the grades, what you see visually is that we have a lot of opportunity, which is the blank space. So you see that in the ninth grade, only 6% of our students are enrolled in a dual enrollment class in a college class. And then when you move to the 12th grade, it's 14%. What if fall of 2023, we can bump up that number from 6% to 50%? Can we do this? We must, right? We must. We can't wait for tomorrow. It is the urgency of today. We must do this for our students. So I wanted to look at McFarland High School as an example because if you look at the bar graph, you don't see the ramp, right? You don't see the ramp. You say, and Craig, I'm borrowing the language that you used at Fresno. You called it the squaring off the ramp phenomenon, but Craig is going to be speaking at lunch, so he'll do a better job. But that's what we're trying to accomplish, to get the ninth grade percentage to be high and then have it go through to the 12th grade. So my last few slides deal with the baccalaureate attainment and the transfer agenda. Oh, before I get to the throughput of students, I wanted to put a plug-in for our first pillar of guided pathways, which is clarify the path. Students need to be able to see the course sequence for the 4 years to baccalaureate attainment. And the Program Pathways Mapper is an easy-to-use tool, and we have 37 community colleges that are live, 12 that are onboarding. We have our CSUs and we have our UCs coming on board. So this is an intersegmental solution. Thank you, Benchita. Thank you, Governor, for funding $25 million for large-scale implementation on this. Let's give it up for Benchita again. I'm telling you, when you see this guy, go thank him, okay? So my last set of comments are looking at the throughput. Because in reading the governor's compact and the roadmap, I said, John Heads, Craig Hayward, let's sit down and look at the data, right? And look at the throughput of getting a baccalaureate degree through the transfer pipeline. So for those of you who are not community college folks, hang with me here, okay? We've got something called the associate's degree for transfer, okay? That's step one. And then step two is these students who complete the associate's degree for transfer have to submit a CSU application and fill out a complicated application with all of their information. Now, we live in the day of Amazon, where Amazon knows all the information about us, but when it comes to higher ed, we have to fill out an application. Although the community Although the community colleges already have this data. And then once you fill out the application, then you have the CSU admits the student, and then you have the student enrolled, right? So there are 4 steps in this throughput process. So what did the data show? I talked to John and Craig. We looked at the data in 2017 and the data in 2020. You will see that community colleges did a phenomenal job. We increased our ADT completions by 48.8%. That was hard work. It was really hard work. All of you community colleges, we know what it took, blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen. But then, when you look at those who applied, you see a dip in the applications. And when you look at those that are finally enrolled, you see a growth of 18%, but there is a gap between those completing the ADTs and those that are getting enrolled. So our work is cut out for us, right? So the question, when we're talking about system reform, which is part of the work I'm tasked to do, I mean, this governor has got ambitious goals here, right? So when I'm looking at it, the question that I'm asking Craig and John, why is it when we know everything there is to know about these students who have completed the ADT, why don't we just let the data flow to the CSU system? We can do this, can't we? So those are the kinds of system solutions that I would like you to think about, share with us, and we're going to work every day to make it happen, not tomorrow, not the day after, but today. We're going to move with urgency. So I want to close out my remarks by going back to February 23rd. That was a day that would be burned in my memory when the Board of Governors had selected me, an immigrant from India, and here's to Paul and Pam, my mom and dad, who are not with me anymore. Dad passed about 16 years ago, and mom about 3 years ago. The 2 women who are sitting on either side, Amy Costa is the president of the Board of Governors, and Hildy Aguinaldo is the vice president. And here is an excerpt from what I told the Board of Governors. I told them that I believe that California leads from values, a right to higher education, right to health care, right to a clean environment, a right to a quality of life where each of us as individuals are honored and respected, and where our sons and daughters can be bold, fearless, and joyful. We see stress fractures of these values here and elsewhere, even as significant resources are being poured into emerging technologies that impact every aspect of life. California will certainly find the path forward in leading this revolution without compromising our values of equity, diversity, and inclusion. I firmly believe that California's community colleges are at the heart of this path. Our time is now. Our people, faculty, classified administrators, students, give us the power and the will to transform, to do our greatest work. When we tap into this power source of talent, ingenuity, dedication, and care for each other, together we are a formidable force for good, absolutely unstoppable. Our time is now. California Community Colleges, our time is now. Thank you.